Hello and welcome to Take on Ukraine podcast. For this week, we'll be talking about current state of things, current state on the front line, Belarus either preparing or not preparing to attack, handbooks that are handed to Russian soldiers with instructions on how to speak to locals so they don't fear them, and many other things. My name is Yuri, this is Sergey. I'm currently in Lviv, Ukraine, Sergey on another continent. And yeah, we are starting. Take it away from me.
The first topic is Severodonetsk. It's the city on the borderline between Ukraine and Russia. The thing is, I know people from there, and I just took an interview with one of the locals. And she described the anxiety and fear about the future of her city because it's mostly destroyed. We hear in news that 1/3 of it has been destroyed, but the truth is that it's almost unhabitable now. Nobody can return there, and we can say that there will be more places like this erased from history, from current affairs, and it's like new Mariupol for us. And I just wanted to start with this, so we are not confused about what's happening. It's not only about like moving the front line and trying to recollect Ukrainian lands back into Ukraine. It's also about devastating people's lives. You know, they had property. Most of people lived in houses, and now they have nothing. No property. So they are uprooted. That's what Russia does to Ukrainians. They take away everything they had, maybe for generations, and they erase their identity, whatever it is. If it's connected to the land, they no longer have it. So I want to start with this really dramatic note. And once I hear people speaking about their house being destroyed, I start understanding that it's like killing somebody. It's almost like opening a wound that can never be closed.
Yeah, and also
some people are displaced twice.
Yeah, I actually know a guy from Lysychansk, which is basically across the river from Severodonetsk. And yeah, he moved twice, I think. For the longest time, these parts were not occupied by Russia, and as you can see on this map, like deep red is what is occupied in this current conflict after full-scale invasion. And before, Russia occupied only these parts, which are in purple. Yeah. Severodonetsk is a new Mariupol, as he said. It was razed to the ground, basically. And what's really interesting to me, like not how Russia wages war, because it's well known at this point. Like Russia tends to destroy things before it captures them. But it's the political reasons that are interesting for me. Severodonetsk is a small city. Severodonetsk and Lysychansk are small cities, and there is really no military value in capturing them. So Russian plans for like the Donbass offensive, like after they pulled out from Kyiv region from the north, was first to like capture from this area basically. Or not, or even from this area, from Izium area. So they wanted to close like this, like from here to here. They wanted to encircle. They failed miserably. They were not able to move like 10 kilometers from their military base in Izium. They are essentially pinned down. Then they re-evaluated and they wanted to cross here. And this is where Bilogorivka happened. This is already famous failed river crossing, when Russians lost like hundreds of vehicles just because they are incompetent, basically. They wanted to cross Severodonetsk river. Yeah, like I feel like these events are very well known at this point, but yeah, like, but Severodonetsk suffers because of it. Then they wanted to basically, like, from Popasna here to Bilogorivka here, they wanted to encircle these people, like smaller circle. But they weren't able to. They are not even able to control this road to Lysychansk. Basically, like the main supply route for Ukrainian forces. They are not, like, despite them being very, very close to this road, they are not able to control it. And then the circle which they want to, it got even smaller. So basically they are fighting, like, their goals became smaller and smaller and smaller until the maximum they can hope for is to capture Severodonetsk and call it a big victory. And
but by capturing, we mean that they simply can put it on the map as being captured, because they have no tactics to occupy territories. They just destroy the whole city and expulse all the people from there, and then, you know, they kind of can put it on the map. Okay, yeah, done. Nothing there. Empty field.
Yeah, and also, like, Severodonetsk is a really bad tactical position. This was pointed out by many people at this point. This is a really, really bad tactical position to be in, because it's a really flat plain, and you have enemy forces in Lysychansk here, and Lysychansk is like on the mountain. You can't station your forces in Severodonetsk, because they will be shelled constantly from Lysychansk. So it's a really bad tactical position, but they kinda threw all they got at Severodonetsk just so they can call it a victory. A really sad thing, really. Because there is no reason why inhabitants of Severodonetsk left their places. Like, Russians have no reason to be there, like any tactical reason, any strategic reason. It's entirely pointless. And for this pointless thing, for this pointless objective to be achieved, Russians basically raise the entire city to the ground.
And it's going to continue, because for them, it doesn't matter who they displace, whether these people spoke Russian or didn't, what was their values. It just, you know, they need some kind of victory, and obviously they cannot rely on support in those regions because people resist. So the only thing they can do is just to kill and destroy. And I wanted to move to the other question, the ally of Russia, Belarus. And we know that Tikhanovskaya, the opposition leader, the wife of an imprisoned a competitor to the cockroach, as he is called, Lukashenko, she said that, look, if Belarusians haven't had resisted to Russian occupation, then Ukraine would be occupied, which is, again, a really sinister way to put it. Actually, Belarus as a country, and of course its population, participate in helping Russia to capture Ukraine. And we see that there were offenses in the north, and obviously Belarus entered into Ukrainian territory through Chernobyl. And at least they let the Russians enter into Ukraine. And of course there are some Belarusians who flee their internal occupation by the KGB and Russian KGB as well. But there's something that we really need to put straight. And it's not only about Belarus, but it's also about some parts of Ukraine and Russia, that yes, the government and the population are not the same thing. But there are people who identify with the Soviet project, and because of this, we need to fight with blood, and people lose their homes. If resistance was higher right now and before, the casualties would be lower. And we need to aim to push everybody who is like, oh, you know, I don't know, it's all complicated. I always had my family speaking Russian or something like this, you know, I always had this hybrid identity, so I'm not gonna change. If their motivation is not a rational decision, but just their laziness and their desire to be conformist, then we need to create the situation in which they need to conform to something else. To be resistant. To be resistant should be conformist. And Belarusians and some Ukrainians and some Russians have not shown it yet, but they can. It's been already 106 days of war. Maybe people need 100 days more. But we need to move forward with this. And Tikhanovskaya saying that Belarus is resisting enough, I think that she actually plays in our field, against us. And we need to push Tikhanovskaya to say actually the opposite thing, that Belarus is not resisting enough, because there's still support. They still can use, Russia and Belarus army can still use their airports to bomb Ukrainian cities.
Yeah, and they actually did it, I think 2 days ago. 2 days ago from this airport in Mozyr. Yeah, they bombed here in Novograd-Volynski. Really. So despite Russians, like Russian army, not Belarusian army, withdrawing from all these regions, they are still here. They are still using airports in Gomel, in Mozyr, Luninets. I think they use it. And now Lukashenko announced he will be positioning forces near the border in Pripyat. They are now training to cross rivers, just as they were training to cross rivers before the full-scale invasion started in this region. But yeah, I can't really find the source anymore. I saw it in a Telegram channel somewhere, so maybe it's unreliable and I'm lying. But this is a frequent thing, like joint Russian and Belarusian military exercises, Zapad, which means West. They are taking place here in Brest, near Poland, near Lithuania. And the aim of those exercises, as stated, is contain NATO country aggression. So they are constantly like posturing before Poland and Lithuania. And now, like Belarusian individual, like not with Russia, like Belarusian military exercises actually take place here, near Brest, so near Polish border, near Lithuanian border.
And it all hyped with what Putin says about history. This great Russian narrative that he pulled out 2 days ago, and everyone paid attention to this when he said that Sweden is also Russian territory, because when we built St. Petersburg, it was still Swedish territory. So, winners are not judged. That's
they actually cancelled a USSR time order of recognizing Lithuania's independence.
Yeah, since Gorbachev, the last leader of the USSR, is considered to be a traitor, a European Union puppet. So everything that Gorbachev signed has no longer any value to Putin. And they show the maps of 1914, 1917, so the First World War, telling that, yeah, look, they don't have independence anymore. We can capture any territory, and it expands beyond Central Asia, Central Europe, and also northern states, like Sweden and Norway. So the ambition grows although we see that Russia is really unable to capture territory and persuade anyone that they're doing it for better, their rhetoric, basically captures more and more countries, and this is a really weird situation in which we are. And I see that lots of bots actually spam Western media saying, yeah, Russia will win, and they're fighting with NATO, look at America, look at anything, whatever. That's whataboutism. And
yeah, but
confusing.
Here there is one important thing that often gets overlooked, but I think like military people in Poland and Lithuania and like Baltic states are really aware of it, and they are preparing for it. At least it's a part of their official military doctrine. But there is also Kaliningrad. For the longest time, Russians and Belarusians wanted to join forces right here. This is a famous Suwalki Gap. It's a land border between Poland and Lithuania, and Kaliningrad exists here. This is like a Soviet-era Russian exclave. And they actually have nuclear weapons positioned in Kaliningrad. So basically it's a very big military base just in the middle of Europe. Another talking point that they used like last week is Poland actually preparing to take Western Ukraine for itself. So Belarus placing troops near Brest is actually kind of a response in their world, in their bubble, in their version of events, in their alternative reality, where Poland actually plans an offensive and they are protecting Ukraine instead of invading and trying to capture. Belarus kinda takes a, as they say, defensive role. So they are, in their official statements, maybe preparing to defend Western Ukraine from Poland. And they've been doing this for a while. Like this whole thing, it started with migrant crisis right here on this border. So.
Yeah, and also Lukashenko famously said that the whole war is defensive because there was a place there in Poland where they're supposed to attack us, the Belarus, right, the Belarusian border. And, despite that this is like Russian offense inside their bubble, as Yura said, lots of people believe that they are defending themselves from NATO. And I'm saying that I met Tatiana Tolstaya, who said 8 years ago that Crimea had to be annexed because NATO was moving in, and that was the only way to protect Russia from NATO. And this is what Russian intelligentsia blatantly says to its audience without even trying to cover up this message. It's what they say. You don't have to look for it. And that's why I want to move to the next point, is this handbook of propaganda that was created for the occupied territories. It's published in Form Napalm, and the thing is, analytically, critically, I cannot be sure that this is not prepared by some collaborator, because this is such a great insight in how to speak to local population to lower the degree of resistance. I just kind of applaud to the attempt to manipulate the information, because it's not about saying something like, NATO was coming in, that's why we're defending. No, it's much better in terms of propaganda. First of all, it's about hiding the violence that is happening in all these captured cities, saying that there is no violence, it's just we are fixing the reality. And this is exactly how Russian media tried to do, saying that it's a special operation by the FSB, KGB, rather than a war. The word a war is still banned in Russia, by the way. So that's just the first point that they say. Don't say that we killed somebody. Say that, we're just like erasing negative effect on local population. That's what it says. then we don't emphasize national divide. We say we are getting rid of terrorists and attackers. Point two, if people ask you, what are you doing here? Go back to Russia. Probably exactly the same thing the Russian occupier in Budapest or Prague in the 20th century. You need to answer with a question, to a question. This is your tactic. Point three. That's point three. And then they, explain in point four why using weapon is fine, because look, the police, all the services, they left your city, and we came to protect you from criminals. So this is probably the weirdest point on this list. We came with guns because people with guns left your city. So somebody has to be with guns to protect you from others. And this can be a point in the debate about arming Ukrainians. I know that from a perspective of weapons in Europe or now in the US, where guns are out of control, weaponizing a territory and people living in this territory can seem like a really drastic and radical move, right? But in terms of Ukrainians, I think that this is exactly where we need to go. And I was a different person 8 years ago when I took a class in criminal studies in Chicago, and Chicago is one of the top cities where gun violence takes away lives, and during summer approximately like 200 people die just in gun violence. They die. I mean, there are many more wounded. But it's not Chicago, and it's not California. These are not drug gangs that will fight. These are regular people that will have their guns to protect themselves from Russian occupiers coming and telling that, we come with guns because we protect you from criminals. They will have to fight with everybody. And I know that the only entity in Ukraine that doesn't like this idea is the police. Ukrainian police. Because the Ukrainian police doesn't fight on the frontier. And, my experience was that the Ukrainian police is still kind of a really Soviet, post-Soviet tool of control, and the only way they understand how to speak to population, and sorry for using this word population, but this is the bubble in which we live. These are not people for the police. These are population, just a crowd. They think of this crowd as someone who should be afraid of them because they have guns, because the law is on their side. But once only the law is on their side, they will lose, as well as the occupier. So I think that we need to give guns to people who are in a danger of being shut down, and killed and tortured, raped. Russians need to be afraid.
I also like how this point about Kyiv giving 25,000 assault rifles to just random people were pre-made. So they thought of this before they invaded. So either they anticipated the move, because we have this thing called territorial defense. And territorial defense, I think Russia also had territorial defense at some point, but the concept is really blurry. And the thing was reformed just recently in the end of 2021. So basically, it's not random people. You don't give guns to random people. You just don't. They have to sign some paper, and you need to know who they are, where they live, and So excesses happen. But what I find fascinating is that they. I don't think they are smart enough to anticipate this move. But they, if there were no queues for getting Kalashnikovs in Kyiv, they will spread this information anyway, as if it happened. But then these people with Kalashnikovs played an important role in why this handbook was never actually effective, because there were so many people with guns already in the area, and everybody knew who they were, because this is locals. Like, territorial defense consists of locals, and the battle for Kiev region was pure chaos, like pure chaos. I think it's Anton Klumbet who served in armed forces at the moment, posted this really good copy pasta. Yeah, I really like this copy pasta because it ties in perfectly in how Ukrainians fight in any conflict in the past, like 200 years, because it's basically like not an army against you, it's the whole population against you. So you deploy 10,000 people to an area where like maybe a Harrison of like 20,000 will live. Okay, so maybe like a small Harrison, maybe something like that. But in classic military fashion, you don't prepare to fight an entire population of that city. Like, no way. Like, imagine from every corner you can be killed. It's not just people in uniform, it's people in civilian clothes, and they are not a part of the military.
And they cannot be told to retreat, for instance.
They cannot be told. And if somebody doesn't have a gun yet, they will hide, they will wait until you are destroyed, and they will take your gun, and they will fight your comrades with your gun. So, I can't even describe it as like classic small war, like partisan war, because it's not a classic partisan thing where you are coordinated with like small actions with big impact. No, this is full on war. Just the civilians take whatever they can, like every civilian wishes you death, and if they have the means to kill you, they will kill you.
The problem is that what happened in Bucha, Irpin, and so forth, these were unarmed people.
Yes.
That's why we see it, because probably they were too liberal, and Kiev and Kiev region, these are people who do business, and they were not militarized yet. But I hope after they saw what happened, if they don't have guns, they will seek more.
And I want to stress a point where, like, we are not aiming, like, with our gun rights reform and everything. We are, like, my position is like we should not aim to militarize the entire population, but there is enough people already, like a critical mass of people who already want to be militarized. So you wouldn't need to force anyone to do anything. You just you just legalize a way for people who want to do military exercises to actually do those military exercises. There is really like one thing is peculiar about Ukrainian law and on guns is you can get an semi-automatic rifle easily, like AR-15. Okay, you go to your local shop, and the process is really liberal, and you go to the police to get you get a license to own this gun, and it's pretty liberal. But if you want a hand arm, if you want a pistol, like a Glock or something, then the process gets really complicated. So you can get basically an assault rifle before you can get a pistol, and it can be surprisingly effective, like a hidden pistol in a war like that.
I also wanted to move to the other part of this handbook, because it shows how the identity of an occupier changes. It's point 6 and point 7. So point 6 explicitly says, don't identify yourself as a Russian, because Russians do not have local support. Tell everybody that we are Orthodox, because Ukrainians and Russians are Orthodox. Not all of them, I mean, Russia is a Muslim country too, and there are Buddhists, but this is what Russian ideology always erases, because it's all about white Russians controlling everybody else. So, Orthodox, okay. I'm saying this because Yakuts, Buryats, and other Asians come as the part of the Russian army, and they're definitely not Orthodox. But they pretended to be, and they represent the Kremlin instead of, well, they could represent Tatarstan, because there are Kremlins in other cities, not only in Moscow. But they represent, okay, like this Moscow's Kremlin. And this is a really important shift in ideology, because we can no longer speak of creating this one unity between white people, Belarusians, Ukrainians, and Russians living in the western part, but it's about religion. And when we see religion coming in, we understand that the methods became really radical and fundamentalist. For religion, you can kill, and it's very drawback, and you don't have to justify anything, because now you're fighting for civilization. And that's why Russians love this rhetoric of fighting for their civilization, Russian Orthodox civilization. Against the West, LGBT, freedom of choice, democracy, and so forth. And this is where we need to fight, I think. And the Ukrainian government actually did a lot, and does a lot to fight back, saying that we have Jews, we have Crimean Tatars who are Muslims. So we have Buddhists and everybody else. We celebrate all types of religious holidays. We're not just an Orthodox country. Plus, we have Uniats, the people who combined Catholicism and Orthodoxy in the 18th century. That's why they were hated. But this is the part of reformism in Europe, and Ukraine was part of it. So we have Protestants kind of thing, but it's embodied into Ukrainian Orthodox Church. So we are more diverse even in Orthodoxy. And we need to continue to strengthen this idea that we are not this kind of, patriarchal, Orthodox church that has no difference and we speak Russian language. No, it's not true. We are different, even in religion. Although religion is kind of out of play, but if it's in play, and if you believe in any kind of God, we want you to believe in your type of God, not in the Kremlin's, the Moscow's Kremlin's one. So,
on point 7, I really like this point because it really gets across my point that I stated to many people who I talked to that this Russo-Ukrainian war will be before the full-scale invasion started. I stated that this war will be really similar to first Russo-Ukrainian war, where Bolsheviks fought the first independent Ukrainian state. What happens then, and what they plan to help, they plan to have happened, is take a part of Ukraine, basically establish some governmental body there, and basically declare it as a real Ukraine. Basically the same thing as happened in 1922. And at this point 7 here, it says we should not blame khokhols or Ukraine for anything. And the reason being that before we form a government apparatus and we are forced to make peace with terms Ukraine and Ukrainian. Already the same kind of play here, because the first thing Soviet Union did back then, what Bolsheviks did is declare their support for Ukrainian cause. That's why they had so much support. We are all for your nation. We are all for whatever you want to do. We will establish Ukrainian schools. We will establish institutions that will help you prosper as a nation, with the catch that it will be anti-communism. And we have an ability to do so because we are this powerful big force of nature. So we can do this. We can help you establish your government. Your free and independent government. There was a brief period of Ukrainization, just so they can identify all and everyone who they like potential elites, and then just straight up
shoot
murder
them
them.
down.
Yeah, so that's what they were planning to do. They were planning, and we are getting more and more reports that they are trying to play this card with the parts of Ukraine that they have already captured, like Kherson Oblast, Zaporizhia Oblast, and Donetsk, Lugansk. They pretty much want to declare a proper Ukraine, and that's why they focus so much on Euromaidan revolution and how this was supposedly illegal to overthrow Yanukovych government. Before the full-scale invasion started, I think there were reports that the Russians have moved former President Yanukovych to Belarus. At that point, they were expecting to capture Kyiv in 3 days, so it was supposed to be a triumphant return.
They restored the legal government.
Yeah.
And Yanukovych is there just puppet. And
yes.
When they speak about puppets, like Zelensky being a puppet of the West, what they want to say that they have their puppet. So, it's fine to replace one puppet with another puppet. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is really like a thinking. Yeah, this is a lifestyle, this is a mindset. Like Vladimir Putin himself said it, like, he's not hiding anymore. He just plain said that either you are a colony or you are an empire in this world. So that's what he believes in. So Ukraine is not an empire. So
no,
Ukraine.
But we need to capture parts of Russia, then set it free, build a democracy in those parts, and then we'll become an empire, and Russia will become our colony. I think this is the only way to go around this.
Oh yeah, really. Like I remember we were talking about like at the start of Ukrainian empire project or some previous episodes ago, and I think this thought kind of evolved in my head a little bit. So now I think we should not do anything to Russian territories, just plain anything, just set these people free, not like specifically come to Belgorod and set Belgorod people free. No, like we are destroying like institutions, not by means of like liquidating things, but okay, so you are not under control of Moscow anymore, but who are we to like force anything on you? So you are free to do whatever. And specifically, like maybe specifically focus on not placing any effort in that place. Just like see how they handle themselves.
The thing is, obviously, Ukrainian imperialism is more like a rhetorical device rather than a real plan, because why would we want to be an empire if we already passed that? And we experienced empire for so long, even our generation, at school, at universities. We don't want other people to experience this because we know it's a negative experience. I just think that the only way to set Russians free is to destroy the KGB, one of the biggest secret police service in the world. And the only way to do it is to prosecute all of the top leaders and executors of this force in international courts. So anywhere they travel, they become prisoners. And in Russia, they are considered to be criminals. as it happens to, some philosophy, Nazi collaborators during Stalinism. So they just need to become criminals. And after we turn the table, when the KGB is really what they are, Russians will figure it out. I'm sure that there are a lot of freedom-loving people in Russia who just cannot speak up right now because they have to be the herd, not to be executed, because they have rational thinking and they don't want to show up. They just need this opportunity not to be suppressed.
Yeah, this is one thing that was a talking point this week. So we talked in our regular video, not in a podcast episode, about Marina Ovsyannikova, the poster girl that appeared on Russian television. So there were a couple of controversial things happening in Ukraine, specifically around this woman. First, I don't know how. Maybe it's lowest level corruption. Maybe the people just plain don't know who she is. I think it's the latter. I think people in Ukraine don't know who she is. Maybe she's a famous person in Russia. She's considered famous person in Russia for doing this stunt. But in Ukraine, pretty much nobody knows about this woman. Her face is not recognizable. And exactly as we said, it will happen. Exactly as Sergei said, it will happen on that video, and I will leave card right here so you can watch it. Sorry for music in advance. I think what happened most probably is she crossed the border from this is the western border of Ukraine, from Poland, and I think she introduced herself as a German journalist who just happened to speak Russian. And this was the entire plan all along, I think. First, she was made a dissident by this media stunt. Then she kind of escaped, but not really. And she got a job at the Welt, German media. I think it's fairly big German media, one of the biggest. And she even got some journalist award. This award is unknown to me, but already you can introduce yourself as an award-winning German journalist who just happened to speak Russian. And given that her face is not recognizable, this patch of her face above the poster is really the only thing that is memorable about her, and the only thing that Ukrainians remember anyway. I think she got in Ukraine introducing herself like that, and she went to Odessa. She also went to Kiev to report. No real actual report was produced at this point, but people who follow her on Instagram got tipped off immediately. And the narrative changed. The narrative changed a little bit. So before she was talking about how Putin is responsible and he's the sole person responsible for this conflict. This was done to appease to Russian audiences who don't want to be shamed, who don't want to be blamed for the war. And now, when her transformation into a award-winning German journalist is complete, she's now playing to appease Ukrainians. She's talking about how all Russians are to blame, and herself included. But what she does immediately is she says, I'm from Odessa originally. I was born in Odessa, and my original last name is Tkachuk, so I am Ukrainian. So this is 8 weeks. So then Ukrainian far media, I think they are something like a prank, like an investigative journalism outlet. They basically went and did what Ukrainians always do. They did a prank call. They introduced themselves as pro-Russian journalist in Ukraine and took this interview. And yeah, all talking points immediately. Well, they say they're
Вы как бы ехали с посылом для того, чтобы рассказать о пропаганде в России. Вот у меня такой вопрос. Вы работали на Первом канале. В какой момент вы поняли, что это как бы не СМИ, не независимая СМИ, а именно инструмент пропаганды? Как вы проживали это сознание?
Ну, явное такое ощущение, что это пропагандистский инструмент, уже возникал там лет 10 назад.
So this thing doesn't have English subtitles, which I think is a big pity, because this thing really needs English subtitles, because there are still a lot of fans or apologists for her. This is this narrative that she will try to push further, and this is like exact narrative I expected her to push, that I'm not guilty. I was not aware that Первый канал is a propaganda outlet and not an independent media.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
It's like, it was a feeling, she says, that it was a propagandist channel 10 years ago. Oh my gosh, that was like a propagandist channel for the last 60 years.
Like, if only I knew that I work for Первый канал and not for something else.
Травмированные всей этой ситуацией, всей этой войной.
Like the next quote I'm trying to find. The caller, he is asking, do you think it will be a good thing to allow Russian propagandists in Kiev just to document regular, peaceful life in Kiev, in Lviv? And she says, yeah, it would be a good PR. Too bad your government doesn't understand it.
But let me just comment quickly on this. If this happens, then Russia just wins in the information war. If Russian propaganda starts speaking of Ukraine, they capture the Ukrainian information field with their narratives. That's why I tried to send my articles to New York Times only to learn that they are eager to accept pictures. They want to get raw data, but they don't want anybody to produce their narrative. They want to produce their narratives there in New York. This is the same here. If you have the power to produce your narratives, you will never give it up, even if it's the same narrative, because suddenly you want to twist it. You can give someone who worked for the Russian government for 10 years, because suddenly she to be German journalist or Ukrainian journalist. No, they will always be the part of that machine, and you never know whether they change their shoes or they just work a clandestine operation.
Yeah, and so what this woman is trying to do now is she is trying to convince Ukrainians that she's not a KGB asset. So she shifted. She's kind of fulfilling her original purpose to infiltrate. She said she will be changing her last name to Tkachuk. Now, and she's saying that she's identifying as Ukrainian now. How does this even work? And she will be going if she's claiming to not be on Ukrainian soil anymore. I highly doubt it. I think she's hiding somewhere here, and she will be going around and telling everybody, "Hello, I am Marina Tkachuk, a Ukrainian journalist who works for German outlet Die Welt. And I also won an award. Would you like to tell me something about how you live here?" And all this is to build trust. And all this is happening in plain sight. She's doing this transform moment live for us. For ages, KGB were doing this covertly. It was really hard to distinguish between a KGB asset and just a regular Western person. Even in America, professors in universities who have proper American names, who teach proper capitalist stuff, who are capitalists by beliefs, and they turn out to be Russian assets, KGB assets. But this thing is avert. I don't think, maybe they are panicking, so they are doing it as fast as they could, but Yeah,
I think it's also the quality of the KGB, that in the Soviet Union it had much more resources in terms of intelligence, because it's called intelligence because you need to use your intellect to infiltrate, and they did a lot to whitewash this. Now, if you turn on a Western video about McCarthyism, that actually put in jail like 200 people. It will be seen as a witch hunt. Although, actually, it got rid of a lot of KGB agents who were placed at American universities. That's true. And, of course, a Westerner or a foreigner just in general doesn't want to have something like this happening in their country when they need to, check whether this professor or this, speaker is a Russian agent. It's terrible. It's just terrible. But this is the reality. And to avoid witch hunt, we need to inform everybody that this is a normal practice when someone changes their clothing to appear as somebody else, and that it doesn't matter who spreads the narrative, because if the narrative benefits the aggressor, there is already something poisonous about it. That's like, we need to teach people to disconnect with the authority, with the person who speaks, with the award that protects somebody from criticism. All these institutions in an analytical mind have no value. If you really want to be analytical, stop caring about it. Anyone can be Ovsyannikova in the in the other type of body, telling that they're Tkachuk or John Doe or whatever. Any name, any place, any position.
I think we can move on safely to your other point.
Yeah, so of course, the fact that someone is born on the Ukrainian territory and has a Ukrainian passport doesn't make them immediately a Ukrainian by values. There are some identification markers, when people just show that they're Ukrainians. And I start, my identity starts shifting, and now I don't accept somebody who can speak Ukrainian with me to speak Russian with me, and mixed languages. I absolutely open about speaking Russian with Russians or people who don't speak any language but Russian. But if it happens to a Ukrainian who can speak Ukrainian, then I see it as somebody dressed as a KGB agent and telling me that still, look, we live in the Soviet Union, and whatever you think, my family or I am a Soviet hybrid person, and I will not give it up. So sorry about this. Then you don't identify with my values. Maybe I am not Ukrainian. Maybe you are more Ukrainian than I am, but definitely we're just different people. We belong to different identities. It doesn't mean that, I'm going to attack you, but most likely it means that you will attack me. So I will consider you to be a hazard to me if you speak Russian, in Ukraine. And so it happens to people like this one, Alexei Kovalyov, who posted all this Russian propaganda, mixing it with Ukrainian messages. He's like a businessman, farmer, a successful person who was a deputy from the governmental party, who actually wanted to have the majority in the parliament. They called it like the big majority. They wanted to be something like an authoritarian government with 80% of support in the parliament. They wanted to rule out our democracy into something else, and they failed. And we are really lucky that Ukraine is not Russia or Belarus. But this guy just deflected. And he starts spreading like Russian narratives about exactly what we saw in the handbook, that this is the real Ukrainian government, like him. They want to have order, they want to have food in the region, in Kherson. No comments about the price of it. But the thing is, I looked this person up. He was a really minor deputy. Maybe he even bribed his way out in the parliament. And the only news that you can find about him is that he got into a car accident and he was driving the car that was not in his tax declaration, and that car cost approximately $150,000. And this is like, it's again about values. I would not associate myself with this person before the war, after the war, and he just showed his face. He didn't have to do much. He spoke Russian. He supported Soviet holidays, and people were debating with him all the time in the commentary section on his Facebook. And now he deflected. All done. He didn't stretch much. He was just a corrupted politician, the one who could live in Russia and be the part of the Russian Duma. But
yeah, and I think he would, like many people of the ruling party, like actually it's Zelensky's party. Like he took all those people, some good, some bad, some ugly, basically, and they called it a majority, monobilshist, and their plan was to basically be a good face Roman dictator in hard times, basically take emergency powers for themselves as Emperor, like Star Wars Emperor Palpatine, basically, and who knows if they would give it back. Looking back at 2019, I would not believe they would actually give back any of power, and people like Kovalov actually proves this. He has no values, basically. The only thing he values is to actually be in power, and if he's some Harrison official or anywhere there, and you are under the propaganda and armed people visiting you, and they tell, we are here for a long time, we will be here forever, so maybe you want to stay in charge. We need locals to help us establish the government. And he agreed. He started spreading this thing, and it's not surprising that they use collaborants, and as well as Russian military, as well as Russian propaganda. They use this chaos versus order thing a lot. So they are portraying themselves as eternal order, basically, like stability, like we don't move anywhere, nothing changes, but it's very, very safe. Even if it means you're living a subpar life without actual infrastructure in a very remote piece of land, and where the entire reason you are living there is that Soviet Union actually decided to inhabit this piece of land for some reason, and it doesn't appear in their mind why for thousands of years nobody lived there. People didn't inhabit this for a reason, but you want to produce this wonder anyway, so you end up there without infrastructure, living subpar life. But you will be living it forever. Everything is familiar. And they always portray Ukraine as this chaotic place. And in those terms, Zelensky was actually a gift for them. Because actual comedian running a chaos-filled country. It's a gift for Russian propaganda, basically. So they continue to use this, and in their handbook you can actually see that they are stressing this a lot. That it's not that we brought tanks here, that we deployed tens of thousands of troops here. No, first your local police and your local authorities ran away. and only then we saw it and we came here to help. And it really works on some people. I think I can tie it in perfectly into something maybe expected, maybe not, but Jordan Peterson. He's also talking about chaotic things. Maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not, but he's really into Soviet propaganda. He collects Soviet propaganda. Also, he really likes Dostoevsky.
And Serbia.
In Serbia. For some reason. Maybe they just think alike. My opinion is they just think alike, but it's really surprising that they use basically the same language. Yeah, Russians and Jordan Peterson. Anyway, is it this week? Yeah, it's actually this week. So, Reuters fucked up. And not one time, but actually a couple of times. I don't know if it's... Yeah, this may be this guy alone, but basically they continue to call Russia stealing grain from Ukraine, from captured territories. They continue calling it grain exports. So and the reason why they call it grain exports is none other than I think they reference RIA Novosti.
Oh yeah, if you get your information from RIA Novosti, then you're definitely well-rooted in Russian news. Yeah, I mean, also the best source is actually Putin's words themselves. I heard one smart person from Russia saying that I never listen to what Putin says because it's already propaganda. It's not the source of news, as well as RIA Novosti or Первый канал. Ovsyannikova comes from.
I really don't see any sources on this. Like really, our standards, reporting by Reuters, but I don't see any Black Sea ports. Still best way to get Ukraine's grain moving fast. Turkey to take role in observation between Moscow, Kyiv, United Nations agreement is reached.
So it's like Erdogan, Putin, and Zelensky said, and
yeah,
we're
something
in
like
the world of authorities, of presidents, and you can put anything in between.
Yeah, maybe I should have taken screenshots of reference to RIA Novosti, but this is a really problematic thing, I think, right now in the world, and I'm not really sure what Turkey is doing. What part are they playing? They are very, very open about strengthening their influence in their region. Basically defying, stepping in place where Russia was forced to withdraw its troops. So, not withdraw, to relocate some of its troops to fight in Ukraine because of how dire their situation in Ukraine is. Turkey immediately stepped in and increased their military operations basically in that region. And I'm not sure what role Turkey plays exactly, but they seem to really not like I say believe Russian narrative on this, but they are showing a really good face towards Russians, actually believing that whatever agreement is reached between Ukraine and Russia on this Turkish soil will be respected by Russia, and they are also taking Russia's words at face value for some reason, about Black Sea ports being mined, and the Ukraine should remove mines by itself, and Russia would no, we would never attack if mines are removed. we would never move to capture that port now that its defenses are removed.
I think that we can see the Turkey, I mean Erdogan actually, because he's himself an autocrat leader, and maybe he has some similarities with Putin, but he's opportunistic because Turkey has its own problems and it fights its own wars, and if there is a flux of money through their ports, through their territory, they will benefit from it. But I don't really believe that Erdogan at this point is naive to take any Putin's words at face value, and maybe he wants to be flexible. But I mean, I think that in this war, because we are winning, Turkey is our ally, and we need to win to kind of to freeze this situation in this balance. So it's good to have somebody there who is opportunistic, even if they're not openly pro-Ukrainian. Even having this flexible position helps us.
Yeah, Turkey's been a total wild card in this conflict. Like, they openly help Ukraine with Bayraktar and so forth. With I don't think they helped with anything but Bayraktars at this point. But whatever, it's very valuable.
It's not help. It's more like making money on military equipment.
Not really.
Remember, Erdogan said, "Don't call it Bayraktar. Call it something else." We don't want to be associated with the side of the conflict.
Yeah, maybe
it was a week before the war.
Yeah, but but then maybe I got misinformed, but I believe we got our Bayraktar drones for a very, very low price. They are really good value for money. Then we are making them a hell of an advertisement. Like, I think Poland actually bought a lot of Bayraktars by this point, and the world is kind of like is seeing this. Like, this is really effective against Russians. And Turkey also published their own videos of how they are destroying Russians' anti-air defenses with their Bayraktar drones in Syria at this moment. So it's an advertisement thing. We are also it's a lesser known thing in the West. We know, I think we know it in Ukraine by virtue of being in Ukraine, but Bayraktar is actually a joint venture. It's actually a joint venture between Turkey and Ukraine. We actively help develop Bayraktars, and they actually have this heavier Bayraktar, which is called Bayraktar Akinci, and engines for that Bayraktar Akinci are made on Motor Siege plant in Ukraine. So at this point, it's really like something like a treaty of strategic cooperation with Turkey, and so far they've been a good ally. They have not breaking their word yet on anything. But for other reasons, they really remain a wild card. So we know we can rely on them. But Erdogan, I think he's making a really questionable choices at this point. Like, maybe he believes he can reason with Russians. Maybe it's maybe it's a ploy to stick a knife in Russians' back. Maybe he just thinks like he's positioned his troops to invade Syria at any moment, so he basically has Russians' ass. So maybe it's his influence. Also, his strategic ally Azerbaijan played the part. So it's actually one and only country who. Azerbaijan and Turkey are allies, and Azerbaijan is really famous for popularizing Bayraktar drones for the first time in 2019 war. And They are actually the only country which has a proxy war with Russia, which took the opportunity to actually cede some lands, to actually move in when Russian troops are withdrawn. So I think like Turkey and Turkish allies have this really aggressive position on Russia. So where Russian troops come out, our troops come in. So as I'm saying, I just plain don't understand what's happening, and like from a plain on the ground mortal, not involved in high-level politics or anything at any point in life. I just plain don't plain Erdogan is, for me, is very unpredictable, despite being a good ally up to this point. And talking about Russians again, Russian propaganda really likes to hammer in on the point of Putin being a madman. Like, at any point I can fire my nuclear rockets, I can do anything. But yeah, like maybe Germany, maybe France believe this and believed before the war, because we kind of know how Russians do things. They are not unpredictable. They are predictable, very, very predictable, to the point that US intelligence and British intelligence can predict like the exact date when invasions will happen, and they will need to cancel their plans and plan to invade on another day. But Turkey in this conflict is really unpredictable. They don't posture like at all. They don't stress on the point that they are unpredictable, but they are. Given our history with Turkey and Russia and Poland, we can expect anything. We can even expect Turkey to move in on Crimea and taking it for themselves at this point. So yeah, I think this is what actual unpredictable power would look like. Not like Russia, but like Turkey.
Yeah, that's why we need to, I think, to take Turkey in the European Union and NATO. That would make them, they are already in, of course, but not in the European Union. In terms of if a country is an international organization, it becomes less flexible with these unpredictable moves. And there are two things I want to say about unpredictability of Russia. First of all, yes, it's a strategy, and you can read about the strategy in the Romantic literature, like Pushkin or Lermontov, who are, library of a Russian soldier. Lermontov is known for his for two things. First, he is a poet of Caucasus because he was a lieutenant who was raping in the Caucasus and making them look like animals, and that's why Russians call them a poet of the Caucasus. You got it, right? And he also created the image of a fatalist in his novel, The Hero of Our Times. The main character is the guy who is ready to kill himself or kill somebody else or kidnap a local woman for pleasures. Lermontov has a lot of stories like this, and it's all romanticized violence, basically. And this is what Putin is. He is the hero of our times, 200 years after that, kind of claiming that I can do anything. I have power. I don't care about life. I can die, or I can send somebody to die for no reason. And if you continue to believe this, then you read the wrong book, because it's really hard to do something unplanned, even in terms of chaotic Russia. And the other thing is, with international organizations, why it's important to include countries to make politics stable. So as Russia is sanctioned, the first move they did is shooting themselves in the leg, is to abandon the Bolognian system of education, meaning they don't have universal testing after school. They want to cancel it, because they say it's European, so get rid of it. And also they don't want to have the idea that you can elect your subjects and have your own path in the university, because that's how they do it in Europe. They say we need to return to Russian traditional system of education, of specialization, meaning that at every university in Russia, every student will take the same program and read the same books, and that's how they will become Russian, kind of thing. So education again becomes the matter of universalist Russian identity rather than really the part of world economy. That's how they talk about this. So that's why, I understand that Turkey is really good at diplomacy, and I know different countries' perspective, like Greece, they hate Turkey, and I understand why. But at the same time, I understand that they are the part of the world economy, and they don't care about taking Crimea. They care more about making money and becoming bigger in the world rather than on a small piece of land that will give them really not much opportunities, because it's going to be contested forever.
Yeah, I wonder what all this fuss about demilitarizing some islands, or what it is about. Like Turkey demands Greece to demilitarize some of its islands. I wonder what this is about, because this is exactly how. Yeah, almost exactly how this current conflict started. With Russia, they are kind of predictable, but they are known to be not very competent. But Turkey, on the other hand, is really something scary at this point, at least for me, and I explained why. Because not only they are. Yeah, they are actually strong. They are a NATO power, and this really means something. For the longest time, and I think reasons are completely political, but also not. Ukraine trying to join NATO. I think as early as 2004, we tried to join NATO.
Even 2008, when the first revolution happened, and
2004.
Yeah.
The response was the door is open, this is the usual stuff, but you're really not a NATO force. And by that time, we had some actual, albeit small, militaries that served in peacekeeping corps around the world. Ukrainian forces were in Iraq, of all places. We were in Serbia. Basically, anywhere where UN peacekeeping mission was. I think up to 2010, 2012, we were a force really capable of deploying some of our Soviet era equipment, and we are really capable of performing these peacekeeping missions. It's not a mystery what happened, but essentially the organization of our forces was not compatible with NATO. Our arms was not compatible with NATO. We had different standards, basically different stuff. But standards are Poland was able to join. Ex-Warsaw Pact countries were able to join NATO, despite owning a lot of Soviet equipment, a lot of Soviet arms. And these countries were not NATO compatible as we were. So I think it was entirely political to not allow us to join NATO for some reason. Maybe because everyone feared Russia. But there is no reason to not allow us to join NATO.
At this point, there is no reason.
There is no reason to not allow us to join anything. And as far as yesterday, I had this Twitter debate, because I think Denmark vetoed European Union candidate states, and Netherlands. And Yeah, like I spoke to, I think, 2 or 3 people from Denmark on Twitter, and some polls. So basically the concerns are that we are not trustworthy to not do the same thing as Poland did. And yeah, like it's really hard at this point to tell that how would I even word it correctly. We have this European standards, like the famous European Union standards, and all these institutions working kind of in the same way, but the staples are European Court of Justice, European Union Court of Justice, and a bunch of product standards across the entire European Union, which are recommendations, but you are in theory you are free to not adopt them, but you're kind of expected to, because it's a loose kind of union. But then a common complaint was that Poland they implemented every piece of roadmap before joining the EU, and these people are talking to me, and they are telling me that Poland then backtracked on some of those policies required. And Poland is really I don't know pretty much anything about Poland's internal politics, but so I expect the Danish guy doesn't know anything about Polish politics, but still they are judging. They see this is not a European, German, Scandinavian kind of way of running a government, and immediately they reject it. They claim it as some sort of bad thing. And at this point, I'm ready to, me personally, I'm ready to reject the notion that other types of democratic government that are on a spectrum. It's not that you are either totalitarian or you are democratic, but rather you are somewhere on the line between the two. And the governments that are leaning strongly towards being democratic should not be judged on 1 or 2 totalitarian policies. Poland is not a totalitarian country.
Yeah, it's abortion, which is terrible, and there are some things that could have been improved, and also Poland tries to resist some policies, but in general they're democratic, because if someone violates your right, you go to the court, and there is a possibility that you win, and if you don't, you go to the European court, and if you win there, then your rights are implemented. That's the thing. And if it happens in Ukraine, it's going to be the same thing. And I agree with you that someone taking out and saying this is the book where the right way of governing a European country is written, and if you don't do this way, then you cannot join. It's absolutely totalitarian, radical, and anti-democratic. And these people are, I think, right-wingers as they exist in every country. And it can be a part of herd mentality. So if their government suddenly changes their opinion, they will say, "Oh, okay, yeah, Ukraine is fine. Let's let them join." So still, the decision is the political one. So the government should decide, and we know it's like a complex system of how these decisions are made, but I guess that the main problem is the rhetoric. Why do we unite? And it should change, and we cannot polemize with the idea of we have some policies that are different to European, and let's discuss how they fit in, whether they violate the general concept. No, the question should be, will it make Europe more stable? Yes, because if Ukraine becomes the part of the European Union, then people will start returning to Ukraine, and they will get rights. They will be able to use international institutions. There will be movement of students. That universities will have to change. They will no longer be under heavy Soviet impact, and so forth. So let's say this: stability. Will this increase stability of the whole European Union? Yes. because not having Ukraine in the European Union makes it actually less stable. And we can actually look for other arguments about this. Other question: can Ukraine destabilize European Union because of its some anti-democratic, corrupted politicians? No, because it's local. There is no such a thing as, that Ukrainian corrupted politician can impact a politician in Denmark. Just there is no such a way to do it. And there are corrupted politicians, let's say, in Greece or other southern countries. And still, it works.
Hungary,
yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, Orban. Look at Orban.
You have an actual totalitarian state in European Union. Not that they don't complain about Hungary, but they are also not doing anything about Hungary. So, for me, if a person only complains about something but doesn't do anything to fix it, then this person doesn't care enough. So, constantly complaining about Hungary abusing their right to veto something in European Parliament, and then not fixing anything, not adding new rules and restrictions about how you should or should not use your veto power. Maybe restrict the veto power to some most important collective decisions. But then also all of these people, they are also in UN, in United Nations, and they were for decades fine with USSR and its puppets vetoing anything in Security Council. Also, they are fine with North Korea being at the table in Security Council, which is absurd. Why North Korea and Eritrea, of all places, have something to say in United Nations? They are not real countries or anything. It's completely absurd. But then these people in a different room, take them from United Nations room, move them to across the street to European Parliament, and then they are complaining that their neighbor is vetoing everything. This doesn't make any sense for me.
And I think that the only question is identity. So, exactly, taking Ukraine into the European Union will erase this ideological wall, saying that Ukraine is different. Different to what? To Le Pen or to Orban? We are different. We are more democratic.
I would also argue that Ukraine being different is not a bad thing. I would also argue that we are in many ways better than states like Germany or France. Being richer doesn't make your institutions inherently better. Just because you're rich, just because you can implement something rebuild half of Paris because urbanism. It doesn't make your huge infrastructure project, your huge ecological project, the fact that you have the money, you have means, all the means and political will to implement all of this, doesn't mean that your institutions are inherently better, that they will handle same pressures. And Ukraine has actually proven to be very good against totalitarian governments. Any attempt, we are on our second revolution, and we are actually fighting the most totalitarian force in the world right now. We are resisting on the ground to being subjected to this totalitarian rule, and we are willing to fight it with weapons stolen from our dead oppressor. That tells something. That really tells something that totalitarianism can't happen here. It just plain can't, because even 2014 things. I remember this very clearly. As the revolution happened and then the war started with Russia, then only in Donetsk, Luhansk Oblast, in Omsk part, a lot of people got really a lot of Russian guns, like stolen from dead Russians. And I also remember my dad visiting me in Kyiv and telling me, like, we have lots of guns. We have lots of guns, and if anyone if anyone tries to pull Yanukovych on us once again, we won't be subjected. And you should understand also, like, this is like a lot of illegal unregistered guns. And what we did with them? Nothing. We were sitting on unmarked, untraceable arsenal of Kalashnikovs and grenades and RPGs, and we did absolutely nothing with it. We have not attacked ourselves. It's not a wild west on the west of Ukraine. Nothing happened.
Because there's always a place to put energy and aggression.
Yes.
Self-protection, you know.
Yes.
There are no shootings at school because, there are people shooting at us just to take our territory and destroy us physically, and they openly say that we want to kill you. And so if there are some mad people, they don't have to play their mind where to go. They always have a place to go.
There are lots more school shootings in Russia than in Ukraine. In Ukraine, it's basically unheard of. I think I kind of, like, from top of my head, I can remember only one instance, and it was a bow. It was not a Kalashnikov. It was not a gun. And it was like one memorable instance of this. And it's really like is the ability to control aggression. It comes from actually being aggressive once in your life, once or twice, and you reflecting on that. And I think what is completely misunderstood about Ukraine, not only like in 2022, like in this Russian, this full-scale invasion phase of our conflict, but from 2014 onwards. We had all these opportunities to basically destroy our own state, and we were nudged towards destroying our own state by Russian propaganda, by Russian agents, and we did not do that. For some reason, somehow, a collective thinking got more and more towards Ukrainian project and not towards Russia project.
Because words are different to reality, and people, as we like to repeat, Ukrainians like to debate, and probably if you put 5 Ukrainians in a crowd, they will have different opinions on mostly everything, but there will be no one Ukrainian, a KGB agent, who will either write a denouncement or just pull out a document and say you are all arrested for not saying what you need to say. And basically because of equality of opinions, that we are in debate, but there is no state institution to make one opinion over the other. It creates the situation in which we just continue debating, but nonetheless, when we're attacked as like these 5 people in a crowd, we're like, fuck off, we need space to debate. We don't want to be like you, then somebody will come in a police car and arrest all of us because we're different.
Yeah, we just immediately identify the Moscow and kill him, and then continue to argue peacefully between ourselves. Because there is no arguing with a KGB agent. There can be none. Yes, and my point with all of this was, is it better or worse than something like, say, Italy? Italy is in European Union, I believe, and will they be able to sustain this much pressure on themselves? Will Germany be able to resist something like this? France has proven, so I'm not asking about France because France has proven to surrender at the first sign of armed conflict or violence.
Or Austria.
They are just like peaceful people. They don't want to fight, and they don't, like, maybe they don't fear that their identity will be infringed upon or something. I don't know, but I think a lot of European countries will not be able to survive under this much pressure. And somehow we did. Somehow Ukraine was able to remain democratic in all of this. You know, like I was already talking about like this Zelensky plan to basically be a Roman dictator with emergency powers, fix Ukraine once and for all, and then give those powers away. We didn't resort to that. Like at all. He was basically denied at the parliament election to do this. He still got his majority, but they were not able to do anything. Like even if you have majority in parliament, you are not able to go against the will of Ukrainian people. That's really funny. So when a European, like classic European old institution guy tells Ukrainians about a really old proven institution that has all these checks and balances everywhere, I just play like, okay, you need this system, institution to protect you from ever becoming totalitarian. We are doing it by just agreeing not to be. So who is better?
Yeah, so like the institution is not the value. These old institutions cannot be value in itself because they're designed for peaceful times. Once unstable times come, for instance, because of migration, economic changes, you know, like new technology appears, the economy changes, or external aggression, these institutions may prove to be only, conformist force in creating problem. And having our model of society where we can debate all the time and be flexible and change and expose traitors and so forth can be more effective in some situations, and these situations happen. So I really think that the European Union should aim at diversity, local diversity, that we do it this way in Ukraine, in Bulgaria, in Hungary. We cannot implement one type of institution. We have our ideals and our place, but we still need to learn from each other, so we are able to adjust to different times. And we need international institutions not because we want to say that we all look alike, but because we want stability, and this is the way to make everybody depend on each other. And in this way, we don't want, to start some stupid imperialist wars.
Also, one thing I remember just now, as soon as 2020 and COVID happened, there was this really a stream of cringe videos produced by European Parliament and stuff about common European identity, the Great Reset, all of those stuff. So cringe. At least for us, a common identity was tried on us once. And I can empathize with Poland not wanting to be a part of it like at all. Maybe backtracking on some European integration laws, or not allowing European Court of Justice to basically to rule on something, just because for post-Soviet states, once you start talking about common identity, we're out. We're just out. Like, common identity, not anymore, not on us, not this time. And I think it's really hard to understand for Germans or for French. It's really hard to understand why we are behaving in this way, because they were not subjected to something like this before.
Well, they were the people who spread it.
Yeah,
they are the imperialists. Germany committed lots of genocides in Africa before committing Holocaust. France was known to be an empire even in the 17th century. We know that Machiavelli wrote his book, The Prince, because he was afraid of French imperialism, as well as the Netherlands. Oh my goodness, they are also the colonizers of the world, as well as Denmark colonized South Africa, and we know that South Africa is not the best place to live even today. And Nelson Mandela appeared there not because he just popped up. And the Britain is an imperialist state as well. So these empires, they cannot take the position of a colonized person. So we don't expect empathetic position from them. We just want to understand how to actually survive near these post-imperialistic countries when there is a real empire that says there are no borders of Russia. We will take anything we want.
Yeah, and really, there was this call on NATO conference, I believe, to strengthen Baltics with more NATO troops. And there was a headline I read that Germany was first to respond. And I'm not really sure Baltics and Poland want German troops on their soil anymore. Especially now that they basically soft support Putin. They're not providing any help. They are constantly talking
if you call $3 billion per month a soft support
for Putin,
yes. Germany is one of the sponsors of the war.
As a French, their thermal vision optics are all over Russian military tech. I believe their BTR-82, modernized version of BTR-80, is equipped with French thermal vision that was basically smuggled because sanctions after 2014, after annexation of Crimea, prohibit trading arms with Russia. But somehow, thermal sites produced in 2020 and 2021 and 2022 are still found in Russian vehicles, in Russian drones. So at this point, I'm waiting for, we are waiting for, maybe the US, maybe British have their grudges with European Union, to point this out, because we are talking about it, we are presenting it. It's really it's hard to tell how many Orlan drones of Russians have been disassembled at this point, or how many Russian tanks and armored vehicles we captured. We know them inside out at this point. We know every piece of, we know every transistor, every electrical board. We know where it was produced, at what date it was produced, what components does it use. And we can present it. It's not we learned to present it well because of Russian invasion in 2014, where the card of our soldiers are not there were used on us many times, and we kind of learned to present evidence in a convincing way for Europeans. But
absolutely, yes. Like this is what Russians always want to say when they don't like something: show evidence. And yeah, Ukrainians learn to collect evidence and present it in a really complex way. You know, like look here, this is documented. And I think the European Union needs to learn more about their corrupted governments, who present to be democratic, but in reality they do the things that were the most shameful in the 20th century.
yeah, and like continuing to trade arms, trade gas, trade oil with Russia. At this point, blocking things, blocking like oil embargo and stuff. Participating with Nord Stream 2 project. Yeah, like at this point, I don't know if I am as a Ukrainian is being cocky or not, expecting some powers like Germany and France actually being punished for their wrong behavior. So yeah, it's a dream scenario. It's the most hopeful scenario that everyone involved, either in producing those arms, like basically involved in breaking the rules that led to deaths of tens of thousands of Ukrainians, get punished by some international institution. But I think I may be very unreasonable to believe that.
I think that we can wrap up this episode at this, questioning whether European Union should join Ukraine, not the other way, you know, and some people need to be responsible for claiming to be Democrat and go through democratic checks. So yeah, thank you for this conversation. Here we end the episode, and I hope to see you next week.
Also, remember to subscribe. Remember to subscribe, to leave a like, to share this with as many people as you can. Especially share it with Dutch. Share it with Danish people. Maybe they should hear this conversation. Maybe they should learn how we think. Because yeah, maybe we are just a wild card for them and they fear us for some reason.
Yeah, we're coming to protect Turks and Muslims in Germany and France.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe Germany becomes next big Muslim power.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So, adios.
Adios.